Oh, there's a goal!
Behold, everyone, I have found the prize of the free agent class. Signed from the team known as Raycon, the Everyday Earbuds. They may be the sponsor of this video, but there isn't a greater value you can find in the market than these babies. Every set of earbuds comes with a variety of fit sizes, and the gel tips don't stick out of your ears while allowing maximum comfort. When I'm trying to work on things or relax after a day of shitposting, I can trust its 32 hours of battery life to keep me comfy during the process. Best of all, I can sign them up to my arsenal for roughly half the cost of other major brands. And if I'm somehow not satisfied with my purchase, Raycon has a 45-day happiness guarantee. If you don't like them, you can return them for a full refund. No hassles or catches involved. Its seamless connectivity helps me nearly everywhere throughout the house. And you can get 15% off your order by going to buyraycon.com/utree. For me, I don't have buyer's remorse about this. And I hope you don't either. Raycon's everyday earbuds are a steal on the market. Now on to the rest of the NHL offseason. If there is anything we have learned from this free agency cycle, the salary cap is merely a social construct. A guideline instead of a hard rule. With how many dollars were thrown around on players in a fucking flat cap year, there are going to be a lot of regretted decisions in a couple of years. These probably won't be for Tampa Bay, however. Off the second straight cup win, there were millions over the salary cap just from ending the year. But you know something? The fuckers did it. They got out of cap hell with a few moves. Yanni Gourde was a sacrifice to the expansion gods of Seattle, but what about Tyler Johnson? They got rid of his contract with a second-round pick as sweetener to Chicago. Now here's what I don't get. Several years ago, Brent Seabrook's contract was one of the biggest albatrosses in hockey. Now that he will never play again, it's suddenly an asset. I bet the hockey world's gonna love this loophole now that Tampa's utilizing it to their gain. The Lightning are now under the cap with room to spare. Let's celebrate by bringing back Zach Bogosian and signing Corey Perry. He got so tired of losing in the Cup Finals that he's joining the dark side. I'm so proud of him. Just as much as I am for Braden Point getting his bag. He only got $9.5 million per year? Is there a greater pastime for the Philadelphia Flyers than splurging on name-brand players to fix glaring holes in their lineup? It's rarely worked, but fuck it, the fans were livid that they never replaced Matt Niskanen last year. Well, now you get your wish 3 times over. First, a trade for Ryan Ellis and a contract as long as his defensive poke check. It didn't cost them much, and he should be an asset, so it shouldn't kill them quickly. Neither will signing Keith Yandle. Freshly bought out from Florida, he still has value as an offensive puck handler. For not even $1 million, it's definitely worth it. But this next move is where Philly drank the stupid juice. Rasmus Ristolainen has been a name for as long as I can remember. He hasn't done anything to justify his reputation, yet there are those that think he's one trader pairing away from becoming elite. We already know Philly bid on this bait and switch. They traded several high draft picks and Robert Hagg for the idea of a top-flight defenseman. Even worse, Ristolainen's contract expires next season. So if he somehow does become incredible, he's going to demand a huge pay raise that Philly probably can't afford without more trades. Good work. You fucking played yourselves. I'd say to hang your heads in shame, but then you wouldn't get to see Martin Jones try to revive his career. Martin Jones? Okay. Vancouver needed to fire Jim Benning after years of incompetent day one free agency splurges, yet they believe he has plenty more fuck-ups to accrue as the Canucks GM. This man has been drinking plenty of stupid juice over the past few weeks. He all but admitted his moves last season were absolute duds with 3 actions. Buying out Jake Virtanen and Braden Holtby, and trading Nate Schmidt to Winnipeg for a 3rd-round pick. Another notch on the fine list of failures in Vancouver, Jim. What better way to honor this by adding even more potential fuck-ups to this list? Tucker Pullman may not be any good and played for one of the worst defenses in hockey last year, but it doesn't mean he can't get $2.5 million per year for 4 years. Yaroslav Halak may be nice as a backup, but they need a big splash. Oh, that's it. Oliver Ekman Larson. He has one of the worst contracts in hockey and has suffered massive regression over the past few years. And all that costs is an all-in trade. It involves a top 10 pick, and these 3 terrible contracts may expire in a year, but Benning wants to go bold. They even got Connor Garland for the trouble, and then extended him to a 5x5. Like most other moves Benning has made, he brought in OEL for the idea of what he can be. If this fails miserably, they have another Louis Eriksson contract on their hands. Should have fired him months ago, Vancouver. Hold on a second, don't they still have to pay Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes? Don't worry, folks, there's plenty of stupid juice for NHL GMs to consume. One of the primary enjoyers of such a beverage is Stan Bowman of the Chicago Blackhawks, who definitely isn't under fire for reasons unrelated to his handling of the team at all. He needs a new top-tier defenseman to go after. Duncan Keith is gone, and an era is continuing to come to an end in Chicago. But this just means a new one is beginning. The man who will guide them there is Seth Jones. He had a terrible year in Columbus, and his value is at its lowest because he's demanding a trade out, but look at how much hockey men love him. He's got the attributes those damn nerds will never understand. How much so? Trading 2 first-round picks, a second, and their top defensive prospect in Adam Boqvist for him. Now that's hilarious enough, but it gets much worse.
Flap and Blossom, what's that?
$9.5 million per year for 8 years. What in the literal fuck? I don't know if I give him that contract if I were getting peak Seth Jones. Once again, Chicago is paying for an idea, not a proven commodity. This thinking doesn't end well most of the time. I think we all should know that from experience. Oh, wait a second, Chicago isn't done yet? So what if they said they were rebuilding? They had a completely unsustainable first half and fell apart when reality smacked them in the face. It's perfect to load up for another playoff run. And it's not just in taking on Tyler Johnson's contract. They need a premium backstop to help out Kevin Lankinen. Hold that thought, let me answer this call from Vegas. So, hey, you want to give us Marc-Andre Fleury for literally nothing. All we have to do is take on his salary? Are you fucking kidding? Why would I say no to that? Who would even hate such a move? Marc-Andre Fleury would. He almost retired instead of reporting to the team. Hey, he's gonna play, that's another win for us. And that's all that's definitely happening in Chicago right now. Nothing else boiling in the cauldron whatsoever. Vegas is going through what a lot of teams that can't get over the hump and repeated tries are. They're getting increasingly desperate and knee-jerk in their decision-making. Reaching great heights isn't good enough when everyone's just going to call you a failure in history. That is written by the victor. And Vegas only desires cups. Marc-Andre Fleury has not brought them one. Do you remember that photo his agent tweeted out last year? Well, this time it's for real. Fuck off, wilted flower. You can find out you were traded on Twitter instead of anything dignified. They need to do big actions, like trade for Evgeny Dadonov for reasons. The Knights tried for big free agents, but swung and missed on a few of them, and are currently caressing the tip of the salary cap. And how wonderful. The team and fans are pissed at trading away pieces of the core again. I love how this organization is running a tool-assisted speedrun for sheer unlikability. I hope they fail miserably again. Detroit tried to warn you about Ken Holland, Edmonton. This man with any sort of cap space is a recipe for disaster. This offseason, oh, he's not just drinking the stupid juice, he's injecting that shit into every available vein. Being embarrassed by Winnipeg is something no one should have to endure. Look at how despondent Holland is in this picture. He has to make moves that will look terrible in a few years to respond. First on the docket, acquiring Duncan Keith. Sure, he's nowhere near what he was as a player in his best in a lesser role, but he can still play quality minutes here. They'll even take on his entire salary and trade assets to Chicago to do it. Several better vets were bought out of their contracts days later. Fun times. They may have lost Adam Larson to the expansion draft, but the work must continue. Ethan Bear, we're afraid he's going to be called more slurs for fucking up on defense. He's free to go to Carolina for more grit and Warren Fogle. Edmonton can replace him with Cody Ceci. Fucking Cody Ceci. Look, I get that he was good in Pittsburgh in sheltered minutes, but that doesn't mean you sign him to a 4-year deal. At least they have Darnell Nurse, who was extended by the grace of God to $9.25 million per year for 8 years. Holland, you sure you're not Shirelli in a costume? Tyson Barrie is only useful offensively and was mostly carried by the elite production of McDavid and Draisaitl, perfect to bring back for 3 more years. Speaking of those two, they need a wingman. Someone who will get into the dirty areas and help them thrive. They see their target. Zack Hyman. He was perfect with Matthews and Marner in Toronto. He had an unsustainable shooting percentage last year and plays a game that might not age gracefully, but he has intangibles. He can be signed to the same deal Lucic got in 2016? You're paying him more than Nugent Hopkins? This doesn't have the potential to be a disaster at all. Have fun with this, Edmonton. Oh, Calgary, you needed an overhaul and all we're probably getting is a tweak. Losing Mark Giordano to Seattle is a tough loss, even though he's declining as a player. He still has skill, but it gives the Flames an excuse to bolster a core that's accomplished nothing. There's a really strong asset available on the market to complement a top line. A man who does the little things while having great finishing ability. I'm talking about Blake Coleman, a cup champion who deserves the cup-winning rate. 6 years at just under $5 million a year. The contract itself for what he is isn't bad, but he plays a very physical game. Just hope his body can hold up because I love him as a player. If it doesn't, well, Calgary has some experience in signing those types, don't they? Hopefully Nikita Zadorov doesn't end up the same way. Mark Bergevan has been abusing the options market in the NHL for years now. Every baffling move has seemingly worked out in his favor, yet he has the gambler's mentality. He keeps doubling down despite all evidence pointing to him needing to walk away. The Shea Weber trade may have worked out, but his body is finally wearing down on him, unfortunately. All signs are pointing to him being unable to play ever again. True shame for a warrior like him. At least Carey Price might be back for the start of the year, but the Habs need a new leader to replace him in the locker room. I know the man, Mike Hoffman! I get he's a replacement for Tatar, but at that cap hit for a guy who only has a shot at this point? Not that that was even the worst thing that happened. No, I'm not talking about signing David Savard even though he could fall off a cliff due to his physicality. Let me introduce you to Logan Mayu, a first-round talent who also chose to be a first-rounder in sheer immaturity. What he did was a shit move, and he realized it. He all but stated, look, I fucked up, don't draft me this year. What's Bergevan's response? Fuck you, bitch, you're going to be a first-round pick and you're going to like it. Told you, gambler's mentality. He can't stop. Get this man some help before he ruins everything. I was afraid that the Maple Leafs were going to grossly overreact to their continued failure. Another year without a series win despite being all but gift-wrapped a deep playoff run? I've seen this movie before. Fortunately, they didn't. They chose to make smaller moves to try and shore up the depth. Jason Spezza's back, no surprise there. So is Wayne Simmons. The rest of the class are the likes of Andre Kasha, Nick Ritchie, Michael Bunting, Josh Hosang, David Kampf. Think guys that are low risk but have questions about their game. The only big move was signing Peter Marazzak, who's solid when he's in form. He is in form. Game 4 against Tampa last year shows that he's inconsistent as all hell. I'll check back in on them once they win a damn series. Winnipeg is still here. They're bringing back the likes of Paul Stastny and Adam Lowry to extensions. They can't bring in free agents, so they have to trade for their assets. Nate Schmidt and Brendan Dillon brought in for defensive structure. They needed them too, considering how rough their defense looked last year. It's a modest offseason in comparison to other teams, but the Jets probably see this as a trap of bad contracts. There wasn't much else for them to do, so we'll check back in on them in a few months. It's a time of transition for the Bruins. As old faces go, new ones are poached to shore up the bottom six. Think the likes of Tomas Nosek, Eric Halla, and Nick Foligno from the Evils of Toronto at a $3.8 million cap hit. At least it's only for 2 years. Think Derek Forbort, too. He was part of the Jets' defensive tire fire. Perfect to give a 3x3 for. It will hopefully ease the sting of a longtime Bruin making passage to a faraway land and live out the remainder of his playing days. Some people call this mysterious land Europe. David Kreichie was a great organizational soldier for Boston, and his legacy is set in stone here, but his homeland was calling. The city will miss him dearly. To ease this bittersweet moment, they need to poach a new goaltender to replace Tuukka Rask as he recovers from surgery. Buffalo doesn't need Linus Ullmark. He's Boston's property now. Thanks for keeping him warm for them. Oh yeah, the Sabres. Just as shitty as they've looked for the past few years, and it's only getting worse. I remember all the offhanded comments I made about how they should blow it up. Just because I don't trust them to do anything right and they fuck up all they touch. They must have taken my hollow advice. The core of the shit pile is being dismantled. Reinhardt and Ristolainen were traded. Linus Ullmark wasn't traded and was lost in free agency for nothing. But the real concern is with Jack Eichel. They're in a contest to see who can blink first. Buffalo is rightfully demanding top dollar for their franchise center. It would be foolproof, but the Sabres aren't a well-run organization. Eichel's grievances with management prove it. He still hasn't gotten approval to get surgery on his injury. And who's going to pay a premium for a guy with potential injury concerns? As days continue to toil away, Buffalo loses more and more leverage. I guess you could say they're waiting for the right return, but at this rate, they're gonna get a package that rivals Ryan O'Reilly's. Time isn't linear, it's a fucking circle. Florida is frustrating. No matter what they do, they can't win a playoff series. Yes, they ran into Tampa Bay's juggernaut, but it doesn't matter. Being unable to get over that hump is an infuriating endeavor. But with their latest moves, they're making a gamble. Short-term results are viable for long-term success. How else would you justify the contracts given out to Sam Bennett and Brendan Montour? They are talented players, but they only had good production for about a month with the Panthers. If it's proven to be a fluke, they'll be regrettable, but it's best to gamble when there's little to lose. Particularly with the new piece in Sam Reinhart, freed from the hell of Buffalo for a relatively minor price considering Florida's system. There are plenty of questions moving forward, mainly involving Barkov's future, but they feel the time is now to move past the horrors of first-round eliminations. I merely hope they won't be broken like a certain other team to be discussed. Take out a dictionary and look up the definition for overcompensation. The New York Rangers will be the first example shown. Look at this pose. This is the man in the stance that has broken a franchise towards going for broke on grit. Just like a team in Pittsburgh, they must beat Tom Wilson. It's the only way to explain trading for Barclay Goodrow and giving him a contract rivaling Brandon Tanev. Unless he evolves like Tanev did, it's going to look horrible. Trading Pavel Buchnevich to St. Louis for a draft pick and Sammy Blais is already looking so, him being due a payday regardless. It doesn't stop there. Patrick Nemeth in his defense for a bloated rate. Greg McKagan, Jared Tenorti. Ryan Reeves for a third-round pick. All that's missing is Eric Branson, and you'll think Jim Rutherford was running this team nowadays. Fuck the playoff ambitions, it's about beating Tom Wilson. Nothing else matters. He must die. The Capitals wouldn't like that at all, even if their team is stale and decrepit. They are aging and lack oomph to get to the next level. Even then, they had a major issue in Alex Ovechkin's UFA status. To no one's surprise, he was brought back into the fold, but... Washington? Did you really have to sign him for 5 years at his old rate? You know you've all but locked yourselves into the literal hell that the Red Wings did in the middle of the last decade. This does absolutely nothing about the issues with the stale core or the fact that you've locked it to nearly unmovable contracts. I get they want to be loyal to those that led them to a cup win, but this shit ain't it.
Get ready, Raleigh! The Hurricanes of Chaos are crushing the team! Alex Nedeljkovic is the goalie of the future! His great play isn't worthy of being paid what he's worth! Trade him for the pennies of what we think his value is! Jake Bean isn't any good either! I bet you love huge question marks in that because like the Hurricane, it's full of unpredictability! Frederick Anderson and Antti-Raanta! Maybe they'll stay healthy until the end of November! It's a shame we can't afford Dougie Hamilton, but we have a solution! Are you ready? Literal cancer! Get uncomfortable! You may have come to our games, but we're going to drive you away with our move! Lesson Thrasher! Look over there, it's Ethan Bear! Make it rhyme?
To think that the goddamn New Jersey Devils are the team having probably the strongest offseason on paper. The Devils! How far have we as society fallen? The moves they made weren't only analytically inclined, but financially sound. His backup goalie bring in Jonathan Bernier, who was surprisingly good in Detroit last year. That's not the prize, though. The real one is Dougie Hamilton, Norris Trophy candidate and a strong offensive catalyst in the neutral and offensive zones. Considering all the money being thrown out, a 7-year deal worth $9 million per year isn't bad at all. I'd say it's pretty reasonable considering his track record. You know what else was reasonable? Signing Tomas Tatar to the deal he got. Him being scratched during Montreal's cup run depressed his value to the point where he was able to be signed for this. It's not bad work for Jersey. They have a lot of work to do, but it's something. Columbus, on the other hand, is in yet another deep hole. They are forced to start over again. Seth Jones had demanded a trade, which is perfect since they got a haul and a half for him. They turned him into Adam Boakfist, Jake Bean, and Cole Sillinger so far. That's not bad business at all. The rest of the offseason, questionable. Cam Atkinson seems to eternally be 26, yet is in his early 30s. He's had a down year, so why not correct a different mistake and bring back Jakub Voracek? He's still good. It's easier to market than signing Sean Kuraly, coming back home at a $2.5 million cap hit for 4 years. Apparently, this is the standard contract for depth players this year. Wish you could say the same for Boone Jenner, who got signed to that after a few down years. They kicked the can on Patrick Laine for another year before he's relegated to bouncing around from team to team as a hired gun. But with Zach Werenski, Columbus would have to overpay to keep him around. The contract he got, $9.5 million per year for 6 years? Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty big overpayment. You can thank the rest of the league for that going rate. The Penguins are headed towards a last chance year. A good chunk of the core will be free agents after next season, not to mention Evgeny Malkin's going to be out long-term with injury. So why not this proposition? Instead of losing one player to the expansion draft, lose 2 for next to nothing, and then replace them with a Tanev, White, and Brock McGinn. But what about goaltender? The belief that Tristan Jarry was done in Pittsburgh after crimes against goaltending? Apparently, rational thinking rules the day. Or is that just Ron Hextall's trademark conservative management? I'm guessing both. As for the New York Islanders, there isn't much right now. Rumors about Zach Parise and others flood the landscape, but a bigger concern is Adam Pelech. He needed to be paid. And with his newest 8-year extension, it's quite reasonable. Not bad for one part of the strongest defensive pairing in hockey last year. Besides that, it's too early to grade them right now. They have more work to do. Just like Nashville. They've realized that their upside is currently constructed as first-round exit. The Predators are shaking up their core, both deliberate and against their will. To protect what they needed in the expansion draft, Ryan Ellis and Victor Arvidsson are gone. Pekka Rinne is also gone to that too-good-right-now retirement in the sky. He'll be replaced by David Riddick. Mikael Granlund is back as well, at a rate that would have been fair about a year or two ago, but who am I to judge? They're at least doing something. This year is a crossroads year for them. How they perform will be the difference between staying the course and full-blown rebuild. Good luck, boys. The Minnesota Wild. They are not good right now. Nowhere near it. It's the official end of an era. One of bitter disappointment. The signings of Zach Parise and Ryan Suter were supposed to usher in an era of earning hardware. After buying out their contracts, the only thing they're earning is incredible dead cap expenditures after next season. Glorious times. You know why they did this, right? Not just to protect Matt Dumba, but re-sign Kirill Kaprizov. Unlike with Joel Eriksson Ek, things haven't progressed on that front. It's crucial that they bring him back into the fold, and Minnesota knows it. They can stall on Kevin Fiala. They'll know he'll be there. But if Kaprizov goes back to Russia, the Wild are straight up fucked. And no Alex Goligoski's, John Merrill's, or Dmitry Kulikov's can save them. It honestly sounds about right for this team. Zach Parise is still a free agent, but Ryan Suter has a new home. It's in Dallas. Even for his age, they were willing to give him a 4-year contract. It's risky, but Suter is still very solid as a defender. For the Stars, they chose to emphasize their defense and goaltending. Jani Hakanpää and his defensive prowess were signed for the third pairing, but the key is in extending Miro Heiskanen. A lot of people apparently hate this extension, particularly other GMs for setting the market for these guys, but Heiskanen is a game-changing talent at his peak. I think this 8x8.5 will be a solid investment for them. Even then, there's one more question to ask in Dallas. In the net, is sign Braden Holtby at a cheap rate? And I'm not sure if Ben Bishop is going to be playing this year, but it's looking like Anton Khudobin will be getting traded soon. There's no way they're letting Jake Ottinger spend another year in the AHL after last year, right? The St. Louis question is simple. What do they do with Vladimir Tarasenko? The surface may say he could still be here, but with their moves, it seems like they may be planning for life without him. When you bring in Pavel Buchnevich, extend him, and then sign Brendan Saad to bolster the top 6, they're either going to be very top-heavy or somebody's getting traded soon. Why do I feel like this guy is going to be Tarasenko? Maybe I'm wrong, but if it walks like a duck... Colorado had a huge offseason coming up. Despite falling short again, they have a big dilemma on their hands. Re-signing their captain. Gabriel Landeskog will be demanding a premium on the market, and they don't know if they have the funds to get it done. I can safely say that Avs fans can breathe a sigh of relief. Landeskog was brought back into the fold, and it wasn't at an insane cap hit. Same goes for Cale Makar. Only $9 million per year for his talents? That's honestly a steal for Colorado. Ryan Murray on a cheap cap hit even better. The only thing left to sign is Philip Grubauer, and this offseason is perfect. He should be easy to bring back, right? You lost Grubauer. Oh, shit. Well, it took too damn long and cost a premium, but they successfully found a replacement for Grubauer. Darcy Kemper was one of the most sought-after goalies on the trade market, and now he's theirs. The parts they gave up are replaceable, and they needed a goalie, so it works. Now let's hope for their sake Francouz comes back at full strength. For Arizona's modus operandi, they looked to the traditions of Cheka, taking on bad contracts to accrue draft picks. It makes sense, they were fringe playoff contenders and they need to rebuild again. Getting rid of OEL's terrible contract is a win in itself, but for the Coyotes, it's to accrue a dream team from 2015. Andrew Ladd, Louis Eriksson, Jay Beagle, Antoine Roussel, Anton Strawman. Philly gave them picks just to take Shane Gostisbehere off their hands. With all the second rounders they accrued, it's not bad business. I just wish David Clarkson still had a contract because they would acquire it. As long as you give them a second round pick for the trouble. Next on the chopping block, Christian Dvorak. The first offseason of the Kraken has been relatively mixed. I expected them to do more trading, but there hasn't been much on that front. Unless you count trading Tyler Pitlick and Curtis McDermott such. For their first free agent signings, Alex Wenberg from Florida paid a premium. Okay, Philip Grubauer though, that's actually interesting. They can just flip Vitek Vanacek back to Washington for a second, so that issue's solved. But signing Jaden Schwartz to that contract? Are they paying for what he did in that cup run for the Blues? I'm going to ask you a question. Which would you rather have? Injury-prone second-line winger dealing with declining production? Or defensively elite second-line center? They were signed to the same damn contract. You know which one you'd take, don't lie to yourself. All the Kings need to do is keep course with what they're doing. The rebuild is going as planned, and with a couple of signings, it should get a bit of a boost. Signing one of the best defensive centers in the game in Philip Deneau was a coup for them. The price isn't overly steep either, so it should help them to further transition out of the old core. Speaking of the old core, Alex Edler from the Canucks is here to bring veteran leadership to the back end. Same goes for Victor Arvidsson, although not as old. The Kings know the key is in development, and they're hoping for more of that this season. The Sharks are in deep shit. We've known they were headed for this doom for years, but did that stop them from diving headfirst into it? Of course not! Evander Kane might be their best player right now, but he's in some seriously deep shit of his own. If the allegations from his ex-wife are true, if he was betting on games, we're not just talking about a voided contract, we're talking potential banishment from the league. Sharks fans wish they could banish Martin Jones, but they can settle for a mere buyout of his contract. It's sad when that penalty is more beneficial than seeing him play. Maybe Aiden Hill will be better? Otherwise, it's just depth signings of older players who probably won't do much for them. Think the Andrew Coglianos and Nick Boninos of the world. Oh look, there's another Sharks legend coming back into the fold. James Reimer! He's a Sharks legend, right? Oh, Anaheim. Are you alive? Blink twice if you can understand what I'm saying. A team with serious questions heading into the year and all you do is bring back Ryan Getzlaf? I mean, hey, great, the old face of the franchise is returning, but he's nowhere near what he was. It's a token gesture. Maybe they've just resigned to sucking this year. That's all I've got. Steve Yzerman has learned from Napoleon. Never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake. Instead of splurging on talents that will hopefully not fall apart after a few years, he has chosen a more conservative approach. As the rest of the league self-destructs on their own hubris, Detroit will snag Alex Nedeljkovic and Nick Leddy for next to nothing. Chicago exiled Pius Suter for reasons that I don't fucking know, so why not bring him in as well? It's not bad. Ottawa is doing the same as well. They just took Nick Holden in a pick to get rid of Dadonov's contract. Once again, it might be for the best for them. Lest you forget how bad last year's offseason was for Ottawa. I think they're honestly still paying for it.
Lugging the puck. Whoa. Look out! No! Louis Eriksson has put it into his own net.
Wow.